is really, really great. We're, of course, looking forward to have even more, but 100 members is really a great start. We also now, since a couple of weeks, have a Secretary General, which makes the word for the board of directors and the vice president much easier. And we have conducted, and I'm sure many of you have been in many of these events, different events in all different kinds, both digital and live meetings. So it's been a very, very active part, and everybody of us who are in Adra, we're really, really happy to see the development. And also, as we started this association, of course, our themes were high on the agenda already then, but they are just by day increasing in importance. And therefore, I think it's so extremely important how Adra is developing, and that we look upon this cross-sectional part of work with big data, with robotics, and with AI. So really exciting times ahead. With that, I have a big honor, and I've been really enjoying now a little bit more than 2 years of having the presidency of Adra. But due to, well, I was elected for 2 years, and also due to the workload and other things, I'm really happy that I'm now handing on to Emanuela, who will take over after me now. And I'm really, really happy that she will continue work with this, and we will, of course, all of us who is involved in Adra will continue in our own way to support it. But I'm super excited about that. Emanuela will, starting from today, and you will have seen it on LinkedIn, take over now, and I'm really happy that we will continue our cooperation. So thank you so much, and I hand over now shortly to you, Emanuela, before we kick off the main meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. And I have to say that I'm really honored to be appointed as Adra president. And first of all, I want to warmly thank Marina Bill for successfully leading Adra through this startup phase and reaching important goals, such as, for instance, the first 100 members. So I think that today we are really in the middle of a tech revolution, and Europe should really play a sort of leading role in the global development of AI, data, and robotics. And I believe that Adra will continue to support this ambition by promoting the development of the European innovation ecosystem, mainly based on European vision and values, such as, for instance, the sustainable growth, the innovation, and of course, the societal well-being. So today we are here to present you the strategic orientation towards an AI, data, and robotics roadmap 25-27, which includes Adra's strategic vision on how AI, data, and robotics can help addressing the one that we think are really the global challenges. And this was the very first part of the document that we'll present today. And then in the second part, we included some recommendations for the strategic plan for 25 and 27. And then last but not least, and this is the very last part of the key recommendation, I would say, in Adra, we do believe that the key to the success of the European strategy is the collaboration between the association, its members, and the European Union. So collaboration is really very important to achieve the responsible AI, data, and robotics practice, and most of all, to shape the future of these technologies while addressing the associated challenges that are included in the document. So I really want to thank you for joining us today, and I'm very happy to invite on the virtual stage Filip Piakiewicz, our newly hired Secretary General, and to hand over to him for the agenda of the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, so getting straight into the agenda, in a moment, I'm going to welcome Frederick Hines onto stage to discuss the strategic position statement towards the next strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda. So this is a little bit about the journey that we've already been on, and Frederick's going to set out the next steps in the process, as well as the position statement itself that will identify key ambitions and key themes. After which point we'll move into a very diverse panel that will look at some of the strategic applications for the roadmap and how we hope to develop these aspects in the future. So I'll be welcoming that panel in just a moment. But in the first instance, please, Frederick, if I could ask you to present the strategic position statement. So Frederick is the Professor of Computer Science at Linköping University. Thanks very much, Frederick. Over to you.
Thank you very much. So it's my great pleasure to present this work. So basically, this Adra strategic position statement towards the next strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda. Besides being a professor of computer science at Linköping University, I'm also the vice president of AI research within Adra. So I've also taken on that role. So basically, the background here, we have already heard the fact that, I mean, the Adra was established a few years back, founded by 5 founding organizations. As part of this founding process, we also developed the first version of the strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda, which we have been working on since then. We have a number of general objectives that we want to achieve as part of the partnership to secure European sovereignty over AI data and robotics, establish European leadership in these areas of AI data and robotics, and also achieve high socioeconomic and environmental impact. I guess it's, well, we don't want high environmental impact, but of course we want to support the reduction of the environmental impact. And also to reinforce a strong global competitive position of Europe in these areas, which of course, as Marina and Emanuela have already pointed out, is really key technologies for the well-being of Europe. I think another very important kind of background is the fact that one of the challenges that we see in Europe is this private investment, that there is a huge difference in the private investment if we compare Europe to China and the US. And of course, this is something we also really want to make a difference in. How can we actively increase the private investment to really be on getting closer, closing this gap on a global level. In order to do this, to set out this strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda for the coming years, we have had a planning. We've been working on this for about a year. So last fall, we started to work to set up a number of coordination teams, editorial teams, and so on to work on this. In the beginning of this year, we had the initial priorities identified. And now we are in the middle here after the blue part of this process, where we now have this 10-page positioning statement of where we want to go. And now the next step is then to expand on this. And of course, we're very much open to feedback, suggestions, and comments on how we can improve. So, I mean, we are a member organization. We really want to engage with our members and also to make sure that the work that we do is well aligned with the needs and interests of our members, and of course for the greater good of Europe. So the plan is to have this TRIDA towards the end of the summer here. So if we take this first top level, I mean, we have pointed out where we want to be, these 3 overall objectives. We also see that there are a number of challenges, kind of outward forces that we need to be aware of and that we need to consider. For example, that we have this global global dependency on the supply of essential resources. We have seen the challenge with dealing with the energy situation in Europe the last year or so. We also see the demographic challenges that we need to deal with this, that there are potentially fewer people in working ages, and we have a higher aging population and so on that needs to be taken well care of. And of course, we have this the dependency on key key technologies. And of course, this is something we want to address. How can we become less dependent on this and make sure that we have this strategic autonomy that we want in Europe, so that we can make our own decisions and be competitive on the global scale. Therefore, in order to achieve this, we have set out a number of items that we want to address. So first of all, we really want to create this strong, coherent, and effective ecosystem for AI data and robotics. So I think one very important part here and very interesting is this convergence between these areas. So today there are a number of different communities working in AI data and robotics. How can we bring these together to form an even stronger and more effective ecosystem, combining and leveraging all these different techniques and technologies together? And of course, we also want to maintain and strengthen European leaderships in areas such as robotics, computer vision, and trustworthy AI, and so on. So we have a number of areas where we are good and where we want to become even better. We also want to integrate and connect the European research landscape. So here, for example, we have these networks of excellence that the Commission is funding. And there we're working closely with them and also aligning the research agendas of them with the strategic research innovation and deployment agenda of Adra. As probably many of you are aware, one of the challenges here is also regarding skills and having the necessary competence to do this. And we know, of course, that Europe has a very strong universities and very good education. But one challenge is, of course, to retain this talent, but also how can we further attract talent from the outside and make Europe the place to be when it comes to AI data and robotics. Already in the mission we had is that we want to achieve this high socioeconomic impact, and also, of course, to reduce the impact on the environment and to support the Green Deal and these other initiatives. So, of course, that is a key part of the mission. How do we actually support the development of ADR technologies that support these? And last but definitely not least, we also have to make sure that we earn and retain the societal trust in these technologies, which of course will be the cornerstone of being able to actually get acceptance and to leverage this technology on a broader scale. If we then narrow it down a little bit to the goals, we have now currently working towards 4 different goals here. So how can we boost this European industry in these areas of AI data and robotics? So, for example, here we have this the aspects. How can we both increase the competitiveness, but also support, for example, this the digital decade, the Green Deal, and so on. And there are some specific targets there that we can help support. We've already mentioned this several times, but how can we support achieving European strategic autonomy in these areas of AI data and robotics, which, as we believe, as they are this kind of general purpose technology, will also support strategic autonomy in several other areas that are of key importance. We also want to support the global research impact. As I said, we are collaborating with, for example, the networks of excellence, but we also have a large portfolio of research projects related to this partnership, where there are a lot of technologies and research innovations being developed that we will further support and to push to make sure that we get this global impact. And of course, to maximize the societal and environmental benefits. And here we are also looking very much to the missions, so the European missions regarding, for example, helping to cure cancer and making sure that everyone has food, health, energy, and access to high quality healthcare. So here, AI data and robotics are key enabling technologies to support this. So we see that it's really helping Europe at a larger scale. If we then narrow it down further a bit, we have identified 5 strategic high-level directions, which relates, for example, to trustworthy ADR technology. So we see that Europe is making great progress when it comes to the AI Act. The trialogue has now started. and it's expected that this regulation will hopefully take effect relatively soon. But of course, we want to support and help companies, organizations, and so on to be able to live up to this regulation. So we want to make sure that we develop the technology to really enable Europe to take the lead in this area. We also have this specific goal in the digital decade that 75% of the companies should be using cloud, AI, or big data. So here we have a clear target provided in the digital decade that we can help work towards. Of course, this European strategic autonomy is really a key. So, for example, how can we make sure that we have a very competitive offer so that companies and organizations decide to place their production here? We of course have the ongoing joint undertaking on chips. So of course there is a really key enabling technology, having access to this strong semiconductor industry that will really be necessary to enable the development within this area. We have the last couple of years seen that we as a society, we need to be resilient to different types of crises, whether they're natural or man-made. And again, we think here that Adra can really play a key role in helping this. So both providing more efficient responses, but also how can we avoid some of these situations from ever occurring. So here we have aspects like security, cybersecurity, and so on, but also in general, how do we increase the resilience of society? We all know the importance of the climate crisis, and that we want to be responsible and to be sure that we support both the Green Deal, but also in general having a sustainable society with zero carbon emission. So here we see that there is a lot of promise for the technology that we are focusing on to support these. And the fifth high-level strategic direction here is regarding education, so that if we want to have the competence that we need, we really need to focus on education in these areas, and both scaling up the kind of more educational capacities in this area. But actually one of the key challenges I see is this: how do we also scale it out so that we people in other professions also know both how these technologies impact their professions, but also how to take advantage of these technologies in their own professions. So we really spread this across society. If we take a bit more technological perspective, we have again identified 5 areas of strategic directions when it comes to technology. So the first is in this large scale general purpose or versatile generative ADR technology. So today we see this huge both interest and impact of, for example, large language models and other generative AI technologies. And of course, this is an area of key importance to Europe. So this is really an area where we definitely want to put a lot of emphasis, and where we think actually Europe has a good position to make advances, especially in consideration with the AI Act and other regulations. We also see that the technology being developed is of course both much more complex, but also much more integrated with society. So there's a need for this large scale complex test beds. And of course, they definitely need to be done together with end users. And again, I think this plays very well together with the AI Act, where there is both, there is this sandboxes where you're supposed to be able to test your technology. There is also ongoing work with this testing and experimentation facilities. So I think there is a very good combinations to be had there. As part of really being able to fulfill the regulations, we will need to develop much better technology when it comes to the verification, validation of this technology, and also integrated it into more decision-making capabilities. and not only from a technological point of view, but also from this more socio-technical perspective. The fourth area is building more collaborative and more autonomous systems. So we think this is one area where we really need this combination of AI, data, and robotics to really make a huge difference. So we already point out that robotics is a strong area. We of course have a lot of automotive, aerospace, and other technology, sectors that are strong in Europe. And can we extend and enhance them with this kind of ADR technology, we could really boost European competitiveness. And the fifth area, which I hear in almost every discussions I have, is this: how can we develop better metrics for measuring progress? So of course there is a lot of claims being thrown out, but how can we get a more structured and systematic approach to making sure that we are developing both the relevant technology, but also that we are making this global progress. So these are then some of the strategic technical directions. So together this forms the basis of the direction that we want to take. So as I said, this kind of I wouldn't say concludes, but at least this is the next major milestone in this process. And now we very much welcome your comments and feedback. And of course, we will have a panel where we discuss this further. And then based on that, we will then develop this next version of the strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda of Adra. So with that, I conclude, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Frederick. That was an excellent overview, an excellent whistle-stop tour of all the kind of key components of the roadmap. So please welcome to the panel, and we'll be able to delve into some of the details with the rest of our participants who are all involved in designing the roadmap. So we look forward to hearing their individual perspectives. So welcoming now to the panel, Ana Garcia Robles, who's the Secretary General of BDVA. We have Edward Curry, who's Professor of Data Science at the University of Galway, but he's also a director of Adra. We have Evangelia Marquidou, who's head of sector for artificial intelligence technology at the European Commission. Kimo Rossi, who's head of data research and innovation at the European Commission. And Nabil Belbaki, who is the research director for the North Norwegian Research Centre. Welcome to all of our panel participants. And before we get started, I've got a few questions to get us the conversations flowing, but please remember, for those who are joining us online, you have the opportunity to ask questions as well. So once those start coming in, I will weave your questions into the discussion also, just so you have an opportunity to interact with the panel. So to get us going, I'd like to welcome Ed and then Nabil here to comment on, a lot of effort has been put into designing the document, and I wanted to get you put your perspectives on how it will be used to support European efforts to cultivate ADR research and the deployment. Perhaps Ed, you can come in first.
Sure. Thanks very much, Phil. So I think Frederick has done a great job of explaining the process of how we've gotten here. And it's useful to think as well about where we are today. So we've many different developments in ADR technologies, LLMs, ChatGPT. We're seeing developments around data spaces, advances in robotics. And at the same time, we're also seeing significant developments on the policy side, on the regulation side, the AI Act, the Data Act, Data Governance Act. There's a lot of activity there. And really, when we look at the partnership and the purpose of what we're doing in our European partnership on ADR, it's really about bringing together the confluence of those technologies together. And the purpose of this document is really to provide a platform to have a collaborative, open discussion about what's strategically important to us as a community in Europe, and where do we want to focus our efforts and our investments. So it's a means to be able to bring us together, to be able to collaborate, to be able to explore, to be able to understand and co-create this new technology and understanding the regulatory landscape as well, because technology will drive innovation, and in many ways regulation also informs what kind of a society we want to create, how do we want to live, and how do we want to use these technologies to improve. improve European society. And that's really what this document is about. It's trying to frame that strategic conversation in an open and collaborative way. And this is the start of that journey for the for framing the work program going forward. So I think that kind of gives a sense of what we're trying to achieve here and the role that this document can play in getting us towards that.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Ed. Nabil, would you like to come in?
Yeah, I think Ed and Frederick said many things, but I just want to emphasize in two more things. So in this document, we are dealing with two main areas. One are challenges in Europe, and the others are opportunities for Europe. So, you know, for the challenges, we got so many crises in the past decade, like the pandemic, the trade war, and also the geopolitical conflicts. And this is where we see that AI, data, and robotics should play a really important role to help us to get more resilient to challenges. But the other side is that we have a lot of opportunities where I think Frederick was explaining. We have leadership in many areas like computer vision, robotics, additive manufacturing, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. And this is where we need to use AI, data, and robotics to keep up our leadership and boost our industries and society. And this is like a dialogue and discussion we have to go with the European Commission, but also with the member state, associate countries. Where are the challenges and what are the opportunities where AI, data, and robotics should further develop themselves to be one of the key enabler and helping to be more resilient, but also to boost our leadership into further success.
Thank you both. And that's a really nice segue into my next question, which is really about how the roadmap and eventually the SRIDA will support Europe's efforts to design technologies that respond directly to some of these global challenges and respond also to the evolving requirements of the AI, data, and robotics landscape also. So if perhaps Anna and Frederick, I can bring you in here again. Anna, would you mind commenting on some of these aspects?
Yeah, of course, and thank you very much, Philippe, and good morning to everyone. I'm really happy to be here. So I think in the introduction, Frederick already brought up some of the points, and I will try to add some more. But I see three dimensions, and I will actually add one more. So Frederick was explaining very well. You know, we come from these objectives, missions that actually with the roadmap we update. So if you look at what he has presented, so it has really evolved, and it has considered what are the new challenges, not that we have today compared with a few years back. So that's, let's say, is more the top down, is what is really driving us at societal, industrial, and environmental level, no, and Europe and the world. But we have also the bottom up somehow dimension that is, okay, what is happening from the technological and not technological perspective in the field? What is really driving companies? What is driving society? What are the big technologies, new technologies that are transforming at the moment our society and our industries. So that's the combination that really helps a lot to match the top down and bottom up, so to speak, is good. But there is a very third important dimension. The SRIDA is a dialogue. So, I mean, it's an outcome, it's a strategic agenda, but it's the result of a dialogue. And the dialogue really incorporates many, many different stakeholders. And it's here when we really make the most to align with those priorities, and the dialogue comes at a horizontal level with many other technology areas, and of course with many policymakers and society, let's say, at large. And one point that I think we can look also for the future, if we really want to make a difference in Europe towards the rest of the world, I think we need to start building bridges also with other parts of the world. So maybe that's something that we can start addressing as well.
Thank you very much, Anna. Frederick, would like to hear your thoughts on this as well.
So, I mean, first of all, I mean, I really like what Anna said about this with dialogue, that both that we want to have this dialogue, but also that's the purpose here is to condense this dialogue into something concrete and actionable. And that then this document can be used both by the Commission when they are designing the work programs going forward. So, of course, we want to help them in setting designing the priorities and designing the goals so that we can really boost European development in these areas, but also we want to engage with the members and with the community so that this really corresponds to the needs and the directions that we want to take. So I really think it's important both to kind of galvanize or get the community together, but also to help set the priorities and to design calls and work programs going forward.
Great, thank you very much for that, Frederick. Just a quick mention that you can ask questions. I know there are a few coming in right now, but please put your name and where you come from before you ask the question, just so we know who's asking it. But don't miss out on the opportunity to do so. So if I could welcome Commission colleagues in at this point, and in particular, you know, we'd like to hear from you. You know, the SRIDA itself is a very key document for the ADR partnership. And we want to get your impressions on how would you expect to use the SRIDA in order to create the favorable framework commissions that some of our panel has already talked about to some degree, you know, whether they be related to the policy environment, legislative aspects, funding, infrastructure, and all these kind of enabling environments that help to catalyze the developments. How is the Commission going to use this?
Maybe I start and then Kimmo can complement as well. I think it's very important when you're in a kind of a collaboration and this kind of partnership. I mean, we have on the one hand side the Commission and on the other hand the private side with the ADR Association. So it's very important in such a partnership that we kind of receive also the valuable information from these kind of constituencies, from the academia, but also from the industry, because we need also to know, and of course we have to do an evidence-based policy. So even the funding, and that's where Adra is our counterpart in Horizon Europe, where we should focus the strategy and the topics that we should call for under Horizon Europe. This reader is there very quintessential. So it's the most important kind of document that gives us the guidance to know that whatever we are going to fund is going to also bear fruits and will also be efficient and have an impact. So their reader is important, especially in this kind of convergence of the areas, because what's so special about this partnership is that for the first time it brings together three very important technologies that can truly have an impact here in Europe. Frederick mentioned in the beginning, and Nabil, it's right. I mean, we see challenges, but we also see opportunities. And this reader is the quintessential document to show us the opportunities where we in Europe, based on our strengths, but also our weaknesses, can actually kind of shine. And with bringing at least two of the three technologies together can have an impact in the relevant section. So it's the most important, I think, I would say, document that kind of shapes also the work program and the current program, the document also that was presented today and that we discussed today is also the main document that will impact and give input also to what we will call for under 25-27. I let also Kimmo complement on that.
Yes, thank you. Very practically, we will use this RIDA as one of the sources, not the only one, but one of the sources to formulate our policies, our planning time-wise as well. And as somebody already mentioned, in what we will put in the upcoming work programs that will be shaping the funding, technology funding landscape. So we use the document to, as I think Ed mentioned, to frame strategic discussion, but also the planning and programming. Concretely, we use it for shaping policies and legislative work. So I remind that we are living very interesting, important moments also in terms of the regulatory landscape, because we have the Data Governance Act already adopted last year, but it will not be until September this year that it will enter into application. So there is a transitory period before it goes into application. We have the Data Act, which is at the last miles of preparation, and we expect it to be adopted very soon. Then there is the AI Act that was also mentioned today that is taking shape. So while this legislation is taking shape, we are listening to the constituencies, we are listening to them in a dialogue, but also in documents, as structured documents, as this strategic research, innovation and deployment agenda.
Thanks very much, Kimmo. And just a quick follow-up question to you. So on the 25th of May, the European Commission launched its kind of strategic orientations for the 25-27 work program. Do you see alignment between that document and the roadmap proposed by Adra as well?
Very interesting question. Good that you mentioned this strategic planning document. Indeed, it was released the 25th of May, and it probably has gone unnoticed by many because it is a overwhelming document. And indeed, it's the second edition. We already had this first edition of the strategic document at the beginning of the Horizon Europe program. So now it's the mid-program, and it's a time for a new view of the situation. Of course, the world has changed dramatically since the last strategic plan. So it's actually a major overhaul. It's not just an update. And indeed, we take into account many sources. So it's not only written sources of information and intelligence, but also a public consultation. So there was a public consultation that ended in February this year that yielded thousands of responses that also shaped the strategic plan. And then position papers from organizations, from companies are taken into account. And how this strategic plan will affect the planning. So it is the main planning document for the next work programs in Horizon Europe and also Digital Europe. And it practically will shape the work programs of 2025, 26, and 27. So that's the purpose of that document. So I would say that there's a two-way influence. So that first of all, we take, of course, inspiration already from the first SRIDA from 2020, September 2020 document, and as a starting point, and then what has changed in the world since then we create this strategic planning document, but it's not the end of the story, because then it is a living document that will keep changing until we fix the first work programs, so the 2025 work program first. And this new SRIDA document that is now taking shape will then affect, will also go into the same direction, influencing and shaping the work programs of 25, 26, and 27.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Kimmo. So still plenty of room for, plenty of opportunity to influence how that Commission document shapes up as well. So at this moment, I just want to start to bring in some of the questions that we're receiving from our audience. And the first question is related to the European network and ecosystem, which is a key element to see the role of digital innovation hubs and European digital innovation hubs in the task. So how do you see the role of the digital innovation hubs and the European innovation hubs and their interconnectivity to the SRIDA? So I'm going to ask Frederick perhaps to come in at this point, and Evangelie as well, if you could comment on it from a Commission perspective as well. So Frederick.
So of course, the digital innovation hubs will play a very important role. I mean, they're one of the main purposes is to be the key for transferring research results and innovation results to the regional and local ecosystems. So of course, that is really important to make sure that as many companies, organizations, and I guess individuals as well get access to this technology. So of course, that's also a key collaborator for us. And we are working towards establishing contacts with the existing DIHs and EDIHs so that we can connect the work that we are doing to them.
From my side, because I see also that Anna wants to join here. As you know, the ecosystem of excellence around AI that we've put in place in Europe, I mean, it includes the public-private partnership, it includes research, but it also includes the European Digital Innovation Hubs as an important instrument, along also with the testing and experimentation facilities that we have in AI. It's true that the European Digital Innovation Hubs are funded by under Digital Europe, but they're really, really important, as Frederick also said now, is also for this tech transfer. They do a lot of also pre-commercial procurement, and I think they're looking forward to good collaborations also with research and kind of promising research that comes out of the work that we are doing and funding also under Adra. But Anna, you wanted also to join in.
Well, it's just to add a bit more, but in the same direction, and definitely Digital Europe brings a lot of new things, and of course I want to highlight also the whole portfolio of data spaces and all the work that is being doing in data spaces. But I wanted to emphasize, as you said, and it's not only EDIs, but it's a list of instruments, and we really need to make sure, and I think that's one of the beauties of this exercise, as there are so many of us and we are really building a big community, that we get back from what is going in deployment and understand what are the challenges there, and also bring them here. And we really have a very good dialogue in between research and innovation and deployment. So that's key, and is for all, for the EDIs, for the TEFs, and for the data spaces and other things. And that, I mean, other projects that will come out, AI on demand, for instance, and others. And then if I even extend and I look at the digital decade, as of course is Frederick mentioned that at the beginning, is in the objectives of the partnership really to support all the indicators of the in particular big data, AI, etc. We really need to engage with the new instruments of the digital decade. So it's very important that the partnership really engages, and I think this RIDA process, and as Frederick said, the final deliverable and actional deliverable needs to come up in a way that really complements all the additional investments and really focuses on what we really need to focus to keep the deployment ongoing as fast as possible.
Thank you very much, Anna. We don't have very much left, so we're going to try and go through these questions relatively quickly, try to cover as many as possible, but you will have the opportunity to, we'll try and reply to them to as many as possible after the event is over in a blog post or something like that. But the next question relates to what steps should the EU take to catch up with the US and China in AI investment? I don't know if anybody's going to be, anybody wants to take this up, perhaps. Nabil, do you have anything that you could perhaps?
Yeah, I can see few words here. So I think we should be very realistic and pragmatic. So we cannot be leader everywhere. And really important. Also, what Kimo said before, before the Horizon Europe started, and now there is a dramatic changes. You know, there are other also topics, but of course, AI is a wide topic, and we need to identify which area we have the opportunities also to keep up on the competitiveness with the US and China and so on and so forth, and we work with them. So I really liked the two European initiatives, one which is called the European Chips Act and the Critical Raw Material Acts, for instance, which are so important to deal with the supply chain that we are having. And this is, for instance, where AI can really be one of the key elements, and where I see a lot of investment that can be done in Europe. But we should really be very careful to not you know, the scale and the size of Europe and like the budget and so on is not the same as in US and in China. So we really have to identify which area we are already on the leadership, or we have the opportunities also to compete, to invest, and also to deal with this dramatic change that are happening in the world. So we have to and input from everyone are welcome, actually, that we can add into the SRIDA as an implementation plan.
I'd like to add that the only way I think to be able to compete, I mean, if you like to use this word compete, is really by joining forces and working together. I don't think that a single country, it's like with the CHIPS Act that Nabil presented, but I also had it in my previous experience with the Euro HPC joint undertaking. There is not a single country, I think, that can compete at this moment with the US or China. But I think what is really crucial now is really to kind of overcome other kind of barriers and pool resources together and join forces in order to build something that is according to the European values. I don't think we need to kind of compete, but we need to kind of work together in order to build something that is equally kind of serves our needs here in Europe. I think there it's important, and I think Adra has a very critical role and can play a critical role in bringing all these kind of forces together in pooling those resources. But there we have to really work together, like Nabil, the CHIPS Act, it's a European Union, it's the member states, and it's also industry and academia. So everybody works there together. And that I think shows how we in Europe can do this and build up these capacities and capabilities.
Great, thank you very much, Evangelia. So right on to the next question. So Bal Gorman from Brunel University London, one of the challenges is enabling organizations to share their data. How can we create the right environment, ethics, GDPR for data sharing to occur? So they're just, this point around the enabling environment that you mentioned, Kimo. So perhaps you could say a couple of words on this first, and then Ed, if you could jump in afterwards, that'd be great.
Yes, that's a very good question, very important one. I think data sharing will not happen if there is no trust. So trust is the main element, and trust, of course, comes with compliance with ethics, compliance with data ownership issues. So like the intellectual property rights, that they are respected, the confidence that these are complied with, and that there is that the data is kind of serious commodity that enjoys the same kind of protection than other commodities in markets, in well-functioning markets. So to make that happen, of course, GDPR was the first cornerstone. It was the first one to be established, and it addressed the privacy of personal data, and very important. So, then the next cornerstones are the Data Governance Act and the Data Act that will govern the other aspects of building trust in data sharing, if I, as a company, I generate valuable data, but I feel that it could be used by others and create even more value, how can I trust that it is used in a way that it does not infringe my rights and my investments that I have made into this infrastructure that generates the data? So those are the elements that are, I would say, necessary. They are not sufficient elements, but they are necessary elements that must be in place. So the right kind of legal regulatory framework, and then we need to create a culture of sharing, of course, and that's because building the trust is not only a matter of having a set of rules. There is something metaphysical about it as well, so that we need to want it. We need to want to trade. That there is somebody needs something and the other one can supply it. So this kind of dynamics, we should also. That's why we also need innovation, like new ideas of what can be done, what are new uses that can be made of data. And so AI is one new field for that. That's almost endless opportunities for using data for different purposes.
Thank you very much, Kimo. Ed?
Yeah, I think Kimo's done a fantastic job with answering that. If I could build on what Kimo has said there, I think that the last piece that we need as well is a corporate culture where people see data as a resource that needs to be exploited. There's business opportunity there. And we need to be having our organizations thinking about how can I use my data, how can I work with my partners, my trusted partners, with their data to create new opportunities where both of us are winning and both of us are creating value for our organizations. I think that's critical. And that's very much a cultural mindset inside both organizations. It's not about data sharing. Data sharing is enabling something. What's it enabling? Well, it's that business opportunity for the partners that are sharing that data, where it turns into money or it turns into societal benefit or whatever else. And I think it's also, when you look at the data strategy, we have our common European data spaces within the Digital Euro program, which play a critical role here as well. And I think the final thing, and it kind of points to the next question that talks about misinformation, all of this needs to be trust. You need to have trusted data sharing, but you also need to have trust in the data that you are sharing, that it actually is accurate data, it's of high quality, that you can build and train AI systems using it. And I think that's a critical part as well, is that once the information is shared, people have confidence in it and they're happy to use it to be able to drive value for their organizations.
Thanks very much, Ed. And we're going to move on to a bit of a quick fire round, see how many of these questions we can get through, because there's not long left. But as you mentioned, next question is from Bridget Hallam from BTI. What about tackling misinformation and false news? That's not in Srida. Anna, do you think you can take this one on? Oh, I think you're on mute.
From whom is the question? Sorry, Philip.
From Bridget Hallam at DTI. What about tackling misinformation and false news?
Okay, I think Ed somehow already touched on that, but just to say, definitely that's a very important topic, and there are already several projects running on this. Definitely, and if it doesn't appear now in the strategic orientations or strategic roadmap, is mainly because it's very high level. But I can say already, at least from our community, we already got feedback that this is a very important topic, in particular with the whole ramp up of generative AI. But I guess this will be one of the key topics also coming up, as many others. But yeah, thank you for bringing it up. Yeah.
To add to that, we had two topics calling for tackling AI and disinformation under work program 21-22 and one under 23.
Thank you very much.
It's also very much part of this trust. I mean, we said that, of course, we want to support the trustworthy AI data and robotics, and I would say that this is really part of it. So I would say it's definitely part of the strategic research, innovation, and deployment agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, next question is, we might have to pass on this one, but Merdan Nestler asks, how is Article 28B of the AI Act intended to contribute to economic growth in the EU? This makes it impossible to publish relevant open source models out of academic research, as no university will be able to accept the risk of penalties. And effectively, why is this problem not addressed in the address statement of the Srida? Is anybody able to comment on this?
On the article, it was not in the original proposal from the European Commission. It was actually a proposal, and it's been added by the European Parliament. I mean, as you all know, the trilogue started with the Council, the Parliament, and the European Commission. But I think Bernard and colleagues, I mean, you have with Adra also a very big vehicle where you can also state your kind of concerns and also make sure that these concerns are also listened to. So I would really ensure that the industry and academia in Europe also, either through Adra or other kind of means, express also their concerns. As I said, this is a proposal from the Parliament, and we started the negotiations just 2 weeks ago. From then onwards, I think I leave it to you, colleagues, how you at Adra, how you will take this into account in the updated Srida.
Thanks very much, Evangelia. Like I said, this is the quick fire round. If you could keep your responses brief. So next question to Kimo. You said the Srida will be one of the sources for defining core topics. Can you please highlight a few of the relevant ones?
Okay, very quickly. Yes, indeed, we take input from many sources. So, the strategic plan that I mentioned earlier is a compilation of those sources, including the public consultation that took place early this year. We take input also from dialogues when in policy work and legislative work. So what we hear in the process of legislative work, like European Parliament, as Evangelia mentioned, Now we are also conducting the midterm assessment of the Horizon Europe program. So there's a formal assessment of what has worked and what did not work in the early work programs of Horizon Europe. We see the results now and we take that into account as well. And finally, we also observe what happens in our call for proposals. So what kind of response we get to our topics that we launch, and if we see some anomalies in the response or misunderstandings, then we address them appropriately. We also ask the evaluators, who are also very thorough professionals in the field. We also ask their views of how our funding program is working and how the focusing is working, and then try to improve it continuously.
Thanks very much, Kimmo. I think we're not going to get through any more of the questions at this point. There are a few more that we could have covered. We've had lots more that we could have covered. But we will be picking up all of these questions and we'll be pulling together a blog post that responds to all of them after the event. I just wanted to pick out some of the key things that I kind of extracted from the discussion, like the importance of the SRIDA to really help us respond to some of these megatrends around essential resources, demographic changes, and the need to have some level of control over key technologies. You know, this element of collaboration that helps the entire ecosystem to come together across AI data and robotics technologies, and the next calls for proposal, or the calls for proposals under 25-27 will look to do that as well, and look to develop a level of global research impact that comes out of Europe as well, and making sure that we can start to lead in some of these domains by developing specific sectors, and also helping to support skills development in Europe. So at this point, I want to thank our panelists for their contributions. Encourage all who are on the call today to get involved in the SRIDA's development, or at least to our members. There may be some of you who are interested in membership as well. Please reach out to us, and we can fill you in with any information that you might require. But on that note, thank you very much again, and have a very good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.